Alrighty guys, let's talk about the brand new Pendulum Vaylantz archetype that just announced a new boss monster for them. So the boss monster is Vaylantz of the Wireframe Abyss Arctus XII. Yeah, that's the full name. The effect is so long, I gotta pause it here, and I'm just gonna go over this card's effect, then we're gonna go ahead and do the gameplay, and then we'll give you guys the deck profile for it. So what essentially changed with Vaylantz? Well, they actually have a really good card now, and it's pretty easy to summon. So let's go over the Pen effect real quick. The reason why is in-game it has question mark effect, so and you can't even read it because the text is literally like you need a magnifying glass. Anyways, its Pendulum effect says that you can activate one of these effects. You can special summon this card to your main monster zone in its same column. The other effect is to move one monster in your main monster zone to an adjacent horizontal monster zone. And then the other effect is you can only use this effect of it once per turn. Now the monster effect is actually what we're really here for. So to summon it, it requires 2 level 5 or higher Vaylantz monsters, which is actually pretty easy. But it's special summoned. This face down card in the extra deck must first be special summoned by tributing the above cards you control. You can only use each of the following effects of Vaylantz of the Wireframe Abyss Arctus XII once per turn. So as a quick effect, you can switch the locations of 2 monsters in your main monster zone or 2 monsters in your opponent's main monster zone. The other part is if a card or cards in the monster zone moves to another zone, you can destroy 1 card on the field. So that's a pretty good effect. Obviously, you can move things as a quick effect and then, you know, not only stop your opponent from maybe having the correct link zones, but you get to pop a card. It combos pretty well with the other card. There's the Mamonka Naka. This card has the effect as a quick effect. You can target effect monster in your opponent's main monster zone and you place it in their back row. So you make their card become like a continuous or like kind of like a pen card, if you will. But that's like the main goal of the deck turn 1. Let's go ahead and roll some gameplay and then you guys can kind of see how it plays via the gameplay. So Shadow Dragon 75 over here is going to be popping off over here. I like how the guy turn 1, he's just like Lancia, right? I mean, you never know what you're playing up against, and it's tier elements, dulls, so it's like still what I would consider like pretty decent as a deck. I mean, tier elements, you can splash them in a lot of different things. So again, the easy way to go for the brand new pen monster is just go ahead and just go right into it. So here we have the card again. I know it has question mark, but I already went over the effect. Basically, you're going to be swapping zones and you get a pop a card. Now, they also happen to have a really good field spell, which can actually disrupt your opponent. Now, keep in mind that the effects are going to be stopped, but it doesn't really matter because you're just going to go for the append, and then you're going to be able to bounce the card back. You're going to go ahead and search some extra cards. This card is actually pretty interesting. Again, a lot of people probably don't know how Vaylantz plays, so I'm going to briefly pause just for a second. Don't worry, it's a really fast game here. So, the field spell, there's actually 2 different field spells. So when you place one, you place another one. So whatever one that you don't need, you just place it there. So it has a nice little effect. So when this card's placed, you place another Vaylantz field spell from your deck in your opponent's field zone. So you can maybe disrupt your opponent from maybe doing certain things. But if there are 2 cards in the field zones, the turn player can target 1 monster card in their own spell and trap zone. They special summon that card to their main monster zone in its same column. So keep in mind, you may not want to do that to your opponent when you bounce their stuff back because it can actually hurt you. So this is kind of like the way that you're learning this deck. And then the other card, so this one over here is the Shinra Bansho. The other card is the Koenig Wesen. So when this card's activated again, you get to place another one just like the other card. And if there are 2 cards in the field zones, the turn player can target an effect monster in the opponent's main monster zone in the same column of one of the monsters they control. They place that opponent's monster as a face-up continuous spell in their spell and trap zone. And then if the zone is occupied, you destroy the card. That's actually important for the other effect. Now, it doesn't really matter because during the first turn, when you go for your Vaylantz, the boss monster, the Arctus XII, I'm just going to call him Arctus XII now so I don't have to read everything. So basically, you want to get rid of your opponent's thing so they can't move your stuff into the back row. But this card being in the graveyard can facilitate not only deck thinning, but later down the line, you may have some extra plays with it. So now he's going to go swap the zones, and he's going to get that effect over there, and he's going to go and get rid of that card and popping that opponent's card. So now his opponent doesn't have one. Does that make sense? You got to keep that in mind because otherwise, if you move some other cards back, so he's destroying this card, it doesn't really matter too much at this point. But he's like, all right, I'm going to move your tier elements. Now it's a spell and trap. The guy has to just basically pass because he's got Meta Noise over here as well as Sulik. We're going to see this card activate. So this lets you just place a Vaylantz into your pen zone. So in terms of like how many negations does this deck put up, I'd say depending on your hand, you can maybe starting to push like 3-4, but on average, just getting these 2 monsters, and this is basically 2 at like disruption / negations, like pop, but basically you can get technically 2 for 1, because if there's a card in the back row, it destroys that whatever back row there is. If your opponent knows what you're playing against, they're not going to put it in those zones, if that makes any sense. So you don't really want to be stacking things on top of things, just like back in the day with like Rampaging Rhinos, if anyone's OG enough to remember that Yu-Gi-Oh card. But the following turn, it's a pendulum deck. You can make both of the goddess. That's a pretty easy card to make. And then you have 3 negates now, 3, 4, 5. So like, yeah, you can set up enough negations potentially, but turn 1 isn't going to be consistent like 5 negates. I would say it's really pushing like 3 or 4 at most with like a very decent hand. But like I said, it's going to be just a quick one over here. I'll give you guys the deck profile. Once again, shout out to YuGiOh for his build over here. Basically, again, it's just get out a couple monsters. We got Diva over here. Hey, this one happens to be a spellcaster, and we could just use a Diva into Diva as well. We also get Instant Fusion, as this card is a fantastic target. I'm just going to go mouse over the cards really quick, but a lot of the cards are just basically used as filler for just going for, of course, your bigger and more powerful monsters. But, of course, just those 2 cards alone just make the deck already pretty powerful. And again, it's a pen deck, so you can just make stuff out of the extra deck pretty easy, and then you can just go for the game the following turn. But you can see there's no hand trap, so it's a little bit risky. I mean, I guess there's technically, this is kind of a pseudo hand trap if you, it's your turn, right? But for the most part, yeah, that's basically the brand new Vaylantz. Do I think it's absolutely insane? It's pretty interesting. I like the idea of like being able to have like these zones that we move to, but is it going to be taking it up to like an S tier? Is it as good as the cash tier is? Probably not. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you guys enjoyed the gameplay, drop a like on it. If you're brand new here and you want to see more new Yu-Gi-Oh decks as well as gameplay in the future, subscribe to the bell so you don't miss out on it, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.